Hello everyone, Mr. Harper here. Let's continue our discussion on the cardiovascular system. We've talked about the overall purpose of the system and what it's made out of, the blood vessels, the blood, the heart. We've talked about the pieces of the heart and how blood moves through the heart a little bit. And we talked about the types of blood vessels, arteries, veins, and capillaries, and how they're different and how they're made and different in what they do. Today we want to talk about two things. First, I want to talk about some circulatory loops that blood makes through your body and how it moves through the heart and through your body. And second, some of the problems that can occur to the heart. So let's jump right in. So, circulation, of course, is the movement or the transportation of blood through your blood vessels. And the goal is to do this. It's to send oxygen, pour blood to the lungs to pick up oxygen, and then pump that oxygen-rich blood from the heart to the body cells, along with some other things like picking up food along the way and picking up waste products and transporting waste products too. But those are the main goals. And so to do this, there are three primary circulatory loops. The first one is called pulmonary circulation. Now remember earlier I told you that the word pulmonary means lungs. So pulmonary circulation involves the right side of your heart. And here's what the pulmonary circulatory loop is. It carries blood from the body, low in oxygen, to the right side of the heart, through the right atrium and the right ventricle, out the pulmonary arteries to the lungs. That's it. That's the pulmonary circulatory loop. From the body, low in oxygen, through the right side of the heart, and then to the lungs. Now, the second is called the systemic circulatory system or loop. And that does the opposite. It brings blood from the lungs, high in oxygen, to the left side of the heart, right atrium, right ventricle, then out the aorta, out to the body to drop off oxygen. Together, they make one big loop. Blood back from the body, low in oxygen, through the right side, to the lungs, pulmonary, systemic, from the lungs, to the left side, back out to the body, into the pulmonary again. And this area here in the middle where this person is, of the little tiny blood vessels, you notice it goes red to blue here, those represent the capillaries. The capillaries are little tiny blood vessels that connect the arteries in red here to the veins in blue. Now you also notice that in here, this is an artery even though it's carrying blood low in oxygen because it's the only one, remember, that's low in oxygen. As you get into the lungs, you do the same thing. You get into capillaries. There are millions and millions of little small capillary beds in your lungs so that oxygen can readily and easily leave the air in your lungs and enter the blood. And carbon dioxide can do the opposite, out of the blood back into the air so you exhale. So you notice those capillaries here turn from blue to red. Down here they're from red to blue as you follow the arrows. Now, the third system is called the coronary circulatory loop, and it goes, funny enough, from the heart to the heart. Now, every single cell in your body needs blood, every single living cell, including the cells of the heart. Okay, blood goes through the heart, but this blood going through the heart does not nourish the heart. It just goes through it. All right, just goes through it. So there are blood vessels that actually come off of the aorta and go back to the heart to deliver oxygen to the heart and to pick up waste products and deliver food to the heart. So let's look at it here a little bit different. It's got a numbered system here. Blood comes in on the pulmonary system to the superior and inferior vena cava. You know, notice they're both one. That's happening together. Dumps into number 2, the right atrium. Right atrium pumps blood through the tricuspid valve into number 3, the right ventricle. When the right ventricle contracts, blood is forced through the pulmonary valve into number 4, the pulmonary artery. Pulmonary artery takes blood to number 5, the lungs, right and left lung. Then the blood comes back from the lungs, number 6, on the pulmonary veins here and here, going back, and they're all dumping in here into the number 7, left atrium. Left atrium contracts, blood goes through the bicuspid valve into the left ventricle, number 8. And then when the left ventricle contracts, out through the aortic valve into the aorta, 9, and out to the body, 10. And then it happens again. The blue side, that's the pulmonary side. The red side, that's the systemic side. We'll skip over that. Now, let's talk a little bit more about this coronary circulatory system. It's blood flow to the heart tissues because the heart has its own little blood supply. Coronary arteries are in the myocardium, the heart walls muscle. Remember the walls of the heart? Those coronary arteries are right on top of that. And so here's the aorta. You have these little blood vessels that come off the aorta and go across the surface of the walls of the heart and into the walls of the heart and carry blood to the heart. And you can see they have names: the left main coronary artery, the right coronary artery, because this is where it's at, the left descending coronary artery, the circumflex. They're all names of arteries that are supplying blood to the heart. And there are also veins in the heart that then will carry blood back and dump it into the vena cava just before it enters the right atrium. And those are cardiac veins, cardiac arteries, or coronary arteries. Now let's talk about what can go wrong. So I'm going to go through this and get to here. Here's a normal artery, any artery, but we'll look at a coronary artery right here. We're looking at this little spot. This coronary artery is nice and free and open. Blood can easily flow through it. Now imagine, think about a pipe, a water pipe. If a pipe in your house gets clogged up with stuff, water can't get through. Likewise, your arteries can get clogged up. They can get clogged up with plaque that starts to build up on the walls of the artery, and that condition is called atherosclerosis. And that can start to block the artery. Now, imagine if a blood clot, which is called an embolism, comes floating along and plugs up, actually floating in this direction, plugs up that artery. Now blood can't get through. Blood's here, but it's not there. Blood can't get through because that artery is plugged up. This is, I'm going to go back to that, sorry. This is what can cause a heart attack. So here comes blood down, but this artery is plugged up. So now blood can't get down here. This part of the heart does not get oxygen because the blood's not going down there. And it starts to die, and when it starts to die, that is a heart attack. Technically called a myocardial infarction. Myocardial walls. Now, what can you do about it? If it's a small condition, you're not having a big heart attack, but you've been having maybe some chest pains, and the doctor says, oh, you have some blockage in your blood vessels, narrowing your blood vessels. You can take aspirin because aspirin makes the blood thinner and it doesn't stick together as much, and so you don't get blood clots and you have less chance of those arteries getting blocked. You could do surgery. One kind of surgery is called a balloon angioplasty, where they literally go into a vessel in your, not here, but I'm sorry, a vessel in your thigh or in your wrist, and they put a catheter in there into the vessel, and they wind that catheter or guide that catheter. It's got a camera on it up into your coronary artery, and there's a little balloon in there that they can inflate, and they stick that catheter into the blockage. They inflate the balloon, and it pushes the blockage back against the walls and opens that up again. And then they actually put a little wire in there called a stent to help keep it open, and then you have to take blood thinners to keep it from getting blocked back again. That's called a balloon angioplasty. They could do something like that. Or they could do a coronary bypass operation where they literally open your chest and they go into your leg, usually, and they take out a piece of vein. And they literally take that vein and they sew it from here, in this case, from the aorta down past the blockage. If the blockage is right here, they bypass that blockage area. Or they can sew from here around and to here. So it's called a bypass because that's literally what it does. It bypasses the blocked area and allows blood to flow again and to prevent a heart attack from occurring. So we're going to stop there. So we've talked about two things. We talked about the circulatory systems loops, if you will. We have the pulmonary loop on the right side of the heart, blood from the body low in oxygen to the right side of the heart and then to the lungs. We have the systemic loop that does the opposite, from the lungs high in oxygen to the left side of the heart and then back out to the body. they together form one big giant loop of the circulatory system. And we also talked about coronary circulatory system, where blood vessels come off of the aorta and physically feed the heart, and those are small blood vessels. They are easy to block. If they get blocked, then you could have a heart attack. We've talked about a couple of ways of preventing that. Take medications, and there are more blood thinners than just taking aspirin that I mentioned. You could have a balloon angioplasty done, or you could even have open heart surgery done to fix those kinds of problems. We'll talk more next time.